Hey guys, I hope you are well. This video today because there's changes that are coming, you know, on a worldly scale, but on a personal scale, all scales. We're in March and Saturn's about to enter Pisces, Pluto's going there as well. Not only is that we're edging towards the astrological spring equinox. So there's big changes coming, and during that equinox, we have planets changing, we have the nodes changing, we have Jupiter changing. So there's a lot of changes from March going forward. And I wanted to bring again this video out because we definitely have to talk about Capricorn. Pluto in Capricorn. Now Capricorn, for some reason, is it's not a feared sign, but it's a sign that not everyone understands, not everyone gets. Yes, it's stable, it's Saturn, and but it's not a sign that is generally is warm to, because the general consensus is that Capricorns, they have this big desire for money and they climb the tree. They can be very ruthless, and it's true. All signs have their shadow sides. All signs have their great sides. But they're good. They're leaders. They're born under the cardinal sign. It's an earth sign. It's very grounded. They're very persistent. When they want something, they go for it. And depending on how they go for it, it's not to everyone's taste. The opposite to Capricorn is Cancer, which again is not an easy sign. I don't know if you guys have realized that when the nodes hit Cancer and Capricorn, it was not an easy time. And even when the eclipses were there. And I was trying to understand why, It's the mother and it's also the father. But there's like harsh emotional lessons, and there's harsh lessons that we have to learn from both. It's the moon, and it is also it's the moon, it's also Saturn. So I say that because Pluto went into Capricorn in 2008, the 19th of November 2008. It's funny because the next time Pluto stays in Aquarius will be November 2023. And it was on the cusp of, it was Scorpio, but it was more or less on the cusp of Scorpio and Sagittarius. The next year, when it stays there, the next 20 odd years, it's going to be on the same time, the 19th. When Pluto went into Capricorn, again, there was shifts. I felt the shift. A lot of people that I knew felt the shift. It felt like it wasn't as easy. Life didn't feel, it went from mutable Pluto in Sagittarius, which was great. For those of you who were, especially if you were like in your 20s, you can say teenagers, but specifically you came of age, more or less, you were a young adult in your 20s. So if you're in your 20s, in the noughties, it was a great time. Life was cheaper. There was a bit more fun. When Pluto was in Sagittarius in 2000, actually in 1995 to 2008, a lot of people came of age. They were teenagers. They were also young adults. The shift was big. The shift was great. The shift needed to happen. So, yeah, so from 95 to 2008, we saw that whole shift in terms of diversity, equality, the law, the courts, especially in the noughties, even music. Music was much more diverse. You saw a lot more like black artists being played especially like even if we're coming up from the early 90s, like 90 through just the 90s in general, there was a lot more diverse music. Yeah. And when it entered Sagittarius in 95, you saw like the best of it. Okay. And even TV shows going into like the yeah, TV shows going into like the noughties was very diverse. You know, blogs started up, YouTube, MySpace. It was an exciting time. Specifically, you know, you had a generation that created and pioneered all of this. I would say the Pluto in Libra. They pioneered all the blogging, the MySpace, YouTube, and, you know, all these things that we are benefiting now, especially like Spotify and, you know, like YouTube and that, blogging. It's, you know, the next generation has benefited from it. So it was a good time to be doing that. It felt like a very fruitful time. But when it hit Capricorn in 2008, it felt like it all stopped. It felt like things become more serious. Of course, it was serious because a new generation came up. This generation, they were of Earth. They had a lot of. They were either born during the Earth era, which is the Pluto and Virgo. When they were born in the late 50s, early 60s, no, late 50s, going towards the 71, 72. They were born during a conjunction that was Earth. Then we had another generation, Pluto in Scorpio, who were 1983, 84, 85, 95. I personally believe Pluto Scorpio really and truly starts in 86, because I feel that from 83 to 84, they still got the Pluto in Libra energies. Yeah, the 83 to 90, 85, they still got the Pluto energies. But saying that, I would say that Pluto in Scorpio, the starting point really and truly is in 1985. But still, I know it sounds confusing. They still, because remember, they're the middle, 1985, so they're not really sure. So yeah, and yeah, so they got more of the like the Libra energy, but they, you know, they're Pluto Scorpio too. So yes, so yeah, there was an energy change. So when Pluto Scorpio, they have got a lot of Capricorn in their chart, Uranus in Capricorn, Neptune in Capricorn, very Capricorn. So when Saturn went into Capricorn, the Pluto in Virgo and Pluto in Scorpio came up. They rose up. Yeah. Pluto Virgo, fifth house, Pluto Scorpio, third house. These are like, especially the third is business house. And I've spoken about it more, guys, on my blog, um on my, you know, podcast about how they came up of age, what they pioneered in terms of trauma and speaking about these things, you know. So yeah, but essentially, you know, they came up, you know, the world changed in terms of that we brought in a recession, huge recession. We also we had the first black president of the United States, Barack Obama. The first black family as well. In the UK, like in London, a lot of bankers, they were, you know, made redundant, and yeah, it was a weird time. It was, yeah, a lot of people were, you know, all over the world though, all over the world. People were made redundant. People actually had to restart again. And that's what Pluto and Capricorn did. It made you, you know, it gave a rise to certain, it was a crash and burn for some, but it also gave a rise to, okay, this has happened. What are you going to do about it? So yeah, so when it came to what you're going to do about it, Pluto in Virgo, Pluto in Scorpio, they rose up. I'm going to start my business. I'm going to, a lot of people as well, especially, I'm not speaking of just specifically that generation, I'm talking on the whole as well, but even though I'm mentioning it, I feel that people that were, some people, because Capricorn rules the elders, so a lot of people actually they rose up and they were older. They were like they were in like their 40s. They were in their 40s and late 30s. they rose up into business and power. There was a huge shift in terms of books, publishing, the arts, TV shows, the world of business. You know, there was also a rise of self-employment as well. It also gave a generation a lot of privilege for certain people as well, because Capricorn is about hierarchy. So if we're talking hierarchy, it was, we'll say, more white. Yeah, it was more white. And but also not just white, it was wealthy. It gave the rise of the wealthy, and didn't really give any much notice to the poor. And we started seeing that when it went in 2009, 2010. Then after, in this country, we had like the rise of like the Tory government. So a lot of people who were like in their probably like late 20s going to their 30s, you know what I'm talking about. This was not a great time. It was a time that, you know, there was lots of cuts happening all across the sector, from schools to hospitals, lots of cuts. It felt like the 1980s again. It felt like the Thatcher years. But again, the planets, they never lie. You know, sometimes the planets have to dictate what happens, and sometimes things have to be really bad in order for them to be great. That's just the way the world is. So, but when that happens, it's like, what are you going to do about it? So some of us had children. Some of us thought, okay, this is happening. Let me step back. Let me, you know, build a family. People are working. But the people that got a lot of benefits, a lot of privileges, they flew through. So from 2010s, I call it the lost decade, because it felt like a decade that nothing was really, it's not that nothing, a lot changed, but more that things changed not for benefit of mankind. It was more for only one's benefit, my benefit. Caring about the self, not caring about anything else. Yes, we did see during the 2000s, during Pluto and Capricorn, the rise of Black Lives Matter. You know, a lot of Black people got killed, but also, especially from, you know, like especially in America and in the UK, we saw the rise of that. We also saw, like in TV, it was like, you have to diversify. And that came late. That came late into the 2010s. And it was more to do with like, it's more than like the noughties. Like, okay, this is normal. This is normal life. Diverse TV. It was like, okay, through gritted teeth, we have to do it in order for us to make money. It wasn't through a love. It was like, okay, Pluto Capricorn business. How can we make business? Okay, let's do diversity. This makes business. This makes money. What I'm saying might sound controversial, but it's facts. With facts, you can't, I don't think facts are controversial. Facts are real. So yes, that all happened. Especially, I think things may have started to get better during the late 2010s, but in the early and the mid, it was awful. But yeah, but I think, again, if you didn't benefit, if you were just like working and obviously, you know, there was another generation that weren't rising up. It wasn't their time. It's just facts. It just wasn't their time. They're just making money, having children, and just getting on with it. But yeah, there was a huge benefit of that. But we did see a rise of people talking about that, their mental health issues. Which, you know, there was also a rise of people talking about marginalized groups, whether it's from they're called people of color, but people that are Black, Asian, South and East Asian, mixed race, also the LGBTQ community as well. That was also highlighted. So people that were marginalized, these things were highlighted, and it was actually a good thing. But again, that came during late, because when Capricorn's going to a late degree, things start to pour out into the open. Before, in the beginning, it's like the rise of this hierarchy system, but during like and also the mid degree, but when it's a late degree, it's like, okay, this is what we've got to purge out. This is what we've got to talk about. Racism, whether it's homophobia, all these things have to be really spoken about, because Pluto is purging. Okay? Even though you're benefiting, you still have to purge. So yeah, so the 2010s was on some aspects it was very, quite frightening. It was also, but also there's certain things that really need to be spoken about. There's certain things that really need to be discussed. So now we are in the late degrees of Capricorn. It's going to stay there for a while because it's going to go in and out of Aquarius and Capricorn this year and next year. And because it's at the late degree, this is a degree which is the 29 degree, which is very it's very much a serious degree, guys. And it's, you know, when it's coming out, it's like everything that needed to be purged from 2008 is going to be, it feels like it's going to be purged out now. You know, Capricorn also rules the government. It rules, you know, like I said, it rules higher up. It rules things that are very high authority. And we're gonna start hearing more about that. Yeah, I don't think you need me to say it. I feel that, you know, you can see it on the news, online. We're starting to hear things. After then, when it goes into Aquarius, we're gonna dip into like the new world order. And the new world order is not going to be an easy order for some. Not only is when Pluto goes into Aquarius, we're going to see the rise of another generation coming up. That's why I think a lot of you guys have seen a lot of like astrologers and tarot readers speaking about the generational shift. The generational shift is that there's 2 generations coming up. So the generations that are coming up are the Pluto in Libra, the 1971/72, 84 generation. And then you got the Pluto in Sagittarius, who are 1995 to 2008. Them 2 are coming up. Pluto in Libra is going through their 5th house activation for the next 20 years. Pluto in Sagittarius are also going through this next 20 years. 20 is longer than Pluto in Capricorn. Not only is it going to be just 20 years, guys, it's going to carry on forth because we're in a new year cycle, which started in 2020 in Aquarius. The next age year cycle is going to be in Libra in 20 years' time. Then the next one's going to be in Gemini. Then it's going to carry on. You know, I think the next one after Gemini is going to be, might be Aquarius, or I think it might be, Libra, then it might be Gemini. It's going to be like that for the whole, until we leave this earth, guys. Yeah, so regardless of where Pluto goes, even though Pluto does help, but regardless of where it goes, for these 2 generations, it's going to carry forth. Even when Pluto goes into Pisces in 20 years' time, which is the UK's Pluto chart, by the way, Pluto return, it's still going to benefit these generations because of the earth, because of the air era. Yeah. When we were born in the part, like obviously some of you were born in the 90s or the 80s, 70s. That was when we were in the earth era. The only time it broke was 1982 when it entered Libra for 20 years. Then it went back into Taurus. But before that, it was all earth. We're no longer in that time. We are now just air. So that's why I speak about these 2 generations a lot. I'm not just being biased. That's just the way it is. I don't think it's been spoken about enough. So when we not only is the air era, the air activation of the Saturn, Jupiter, and Aquarius going to be activated, it's also going to be activating these 2 generations. We're already seeing the Pluto in Sagittarius kids. I call them kids, even though some of them are like teenagers and young adults. I see them already just pushing through, not giving an F. I see it already, whether it's in schools, whether what they're talking about, they're coming into their 3rd house activation. I'm also seeing the Pluto in Libra generation. A lot of them are in their late 30s. So the youngest is 39, 38, 39. And the oldest is 50. they're going to be coming forth. We're already seeing it now. A lot of them are actually acting like teenagers. The way they dress, the way they look. I was just even reading that, you know, because they're coming into the fifth house activation, this is to do with like love and romance. I've already just read that there was this two actors, they've split up. The man has left his actress wife and he's going out with someone else. They're all in their 40s. You know, so you can call it a midlife crisis. I call it a activation of the fifth house, you know, and not only is that going to be happening, it's more of a fact that because Pluto and Libra are being activated in their fifth house for the next 20 odd years, it's going to be a case of they're going to be going out with people who are not deemed right by society, different creed, different culture. I will speak about like the love section, the love activation when Pluto was in Capricorn, but it's just like what you guys are going to be seeing, that, you know, when it comes to like love and that, it's not going to be like how it was in Capricorn, like you had to go out with certain people, certain hierarchy system. It's going to be like very different, but I'll speak about that later. So yeah, we're starting to see the Pluto and Libra just coming out. You know, they look, not only do some of them, a lot of them actually look young, a lot of them dress young, they're acting young, a lot of them are coming through to business, a lot of them are getting promotions in their 40s and, you know, late 30s, 40s. It's their time. It's not about you're forcing it. It's just like wherever the planets go, your generation goes. So yeah, so that's what's going to be happening. These two generations are pushing through, and you know what the previous generations have done, this is what they had to do in this world as well. But we're just moving away from this earth era, this earth control, this earth stagnation, and moving into something that has to be more fluid. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be there's going to be some downs, but there's going to be a lot of ups as well. You know, this is how life is, this is how life flows. So yeah, so we're moving out of the 10th house, Pluto in a Capricorn, which, you know, which we found was quite ruthless in certain terms as well. In terms of everything, guys. What I'm going to be actually doing is going through the houses when Pluto was in Capricorn in the first, second, and all that. Then I will be I'll be talking about the houses and what I felt happened during Pluto in Capricorn through the house system. But yeah, so I wanted to say that. And I think I just actually talk about the houses now. So let's go to house 1 with this Pluto in Capricorn. I was going to say Aquarius, but Pluto in Capricorn. So we're going to go. So for those who don't know, we're going through the houses, the house system. So when Pluto entered Capricorn, and if we're going through that house 1, it was definitely about the self. There was this huge push and drive. I'll be saying that word a lot. A huge drive to better the self. A lot of us climbed the career ladder. A lot of us started our own business. A lot of us got very ambitious and confident. A lot of us also associated with certain people that can actually help us. Because one thing I found with Capricorn is that it always tends to in order to get successful, and in anything, but especially when Capricorns are very, very ambitious, they associate with people, or they marry into people, they marry higher. So they're going to be aligned with that sort of social status. So there was this huge drive to be on this social ladder. And it's not to say it's a bad or a good thing. It's just, that's just the thing, guys. In order to be a success, you want to be around people that are successful. So we saw that huge push and that huge drive for it, a huge amount of it. And no matter how hard, because, you know, no matter how hard we struggled, we saw like the end goal. And also, like I said before, going with the theme of Capricorn, there was a big thing of being around people that could help. And yeah, a lot of people, like, again, a lot of people got successful, and a lot of people wanted to maintain that. And with Pluto being involved, there was a big ambition. There was a big energy and push of power in order to stay at the top. The first house is about the physical. So like in terms of like the physical body, you know, so some of us did change how we dressed, how we looked, how we approached people, our physical body. I'm going to come more onto that when I get to the sixth house. But yeah, I do feel it was more like people, there was this like taking care of yourself very differently, like going back to old school working out, eating healthily, trying to take care of the body. But on the other hand, because it was such an ambitious time, there could have been a neglect with the body as well. Capricorn rules the skeletal system, the bones. So that may have put more of an emphasis on people taking more vitamins, minerals, working out, eating healthy. Not to say Capricorn's not a healthy sign, but their health is more driven in towards work. So that definitely may have taken a back seat. There may have been a concrete plan to take care of the self, but that, you know, again, went to the back seat. Like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But then work came up. This was the energy of work, guys, and building corporations, building, making money. Yeah, this was a rise of the materialistic. So that was hugely on everyone's mind. Not only because of that, it's because we were in a recession. I don't even know if we ever came out of it, to be honest with you, but we were in a recession. And when you're in a recession, it's like do or die. It's the desperation to make it. There's a desperation to not fall. So the focus and the drive is on creating like wealth for the self or for the family. It could have felt like a very selfish time. There may have been because Capricorn is ruled by, you know, career, but it's also ruled by it is for the self, relationships, how you're viewing yourself, your body, your image. So even though I do feel that did take center stage in a way, the more of it was to climb that corporate ladder. And there was a huge, strange, powerful ambition. I did feel, especially with the first house, there was more or less a huge act of selfishness. And that also came later, you know, but there was this, you know, I feel in a good way, it was great that everyone wanted to do things for the self, but then the greed came in, the materialism and the greed came in. But still, it was great to pursue something because something is now left. The second house was very much drive, ambition, money. It is like material resources. And remember, this is a Taurus house. The second house is Aquarius. So, and also remember, Aquarius is traditionally ruled by Saturn as well. So in terms of money, that wasn't free flowing at all. But I feel for like the second house, you know, the second house does deal with the self-worth, making money, ability. I feel like there's a lot of hidden resources, as we say. But yes, there was this of how to accumulate wealth. So again, with Aquarius being the second house, this could have been for some of us aligning ourselves again with people that can help, with influential friends, making friends who knows friends who know friends. And because Aquarius does rule groups and organizations, I felt like that was a big drive to be doing that. So our self-worth was connecting to, you know, the second house is the self-worth in how we view, like if we have enough, that means we've made it. But if we don't have enough, that means we've failed big time. But this was definitely to do with who we knew. And a massive time of being resourceful with certain people, certain groups, certain organizations, and how to keep the money. Again, I do feel there's a selfishness. I call it selfishness, but I feel it's more a sense of security. in how to attain money and how to keep money. Yes, there was a greed. Yes, there was selfishness. There's some manipulation that was going on. There was a lot of conversations I felt as well when it came to like finances. Um, yes, so, and there could have been some hidden motives, but the second house being ruled by Taurus is like, there's a lot of, especially to the masses, like, from 2010, that's when, especially in this country, there's a lot of things were cut. There wasn't this free will, like, we're going to give. It's like, no, we're going to keep. So it was a lot of that going on. It's like, we're going to be giving money, but only to certain people, only to special people. But if you yourself was earning money, you had to find like sort of like different ways to do it. And I'm going to come more to that as well. Yeah, so it's like different and sort of like unique ways into earning money. But once you earned it, it wasn't necessarily doled out to certain people. It was just kept to like the special, like elite. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on. I feel that in terms of if you did earn money as well, you tended to, again, a lot of us had to be earn money in different ways if you lost our jobs. So some people had a side hustle, some people invested in, I don't know, crypto. We're hearing a lot about that. People invested in like technology. I feel that people also invested in, it could have been definitely certain groups. And yeah, and it was not, and also things to do with like technology. I feel there was a lot of that because in the 2010s, technology was building even higher. So I feel that people definitely invested in that. And that was to do with like, I'm being productive because I'm investing in this for the future type of thing. It's helping people, but it's definitely for my future. So there's a lot of that going on. Right, the Pluto in Capricorn in the third house, Pisces. So it was a great time creatively, guys, for people to, during this time, because the third house, it does rule the media. It's a Gemini house. It also, we saw one thing we can't forget about this when Pluto went into Capricorn during 2008 was that the outer planets changed. The outer planets, as in Uranus was in Pisces, then it went into Aries. Neptune and also the asteroid of Chiron was in Pisces. We also had Neptune, which is still in Pisces. We saw a rise of social media now, especially in terms of creativity. Instagram was built, yeah? And that was, it's to do with Pisces and Aries that people started to make money, especially those generations. They made money through social media. And with the third house being about business and contracts, and the media, and it's also because it's ruled by Gemini, it was like the beginning of, okay, if I talk about, remember this is about communications, if I talk about certain things that are deemed uncomfortable by society, and all forms of abuse, that was a lot that was spoken about. Remember, Pisces ruling the third house is about emotions. So it's like, okay, I need to, in order for me to have like a business, what could I do? What could I talk about? So podcasts grew. Yeah. People, on the one hand, there were some people that done this because they wanted to affiliate with like the social standings. But on the other hand, some people who were self-employed decided that, in order for me to gain, like, remember this is about following. So a lot of people gained a lot of following because they spoke about certain like social injustices. They spoke of things about racism, all those things. But also, anything like any type of abuse, which actually helped gain you to have a new, not only following, but people made money. And it's not a bad thing. It's good to, especially if you start something by your own doing, it's, you're going to be getting paid for it. So that was the rise of that. And, you get your following. People also, because some people were very creative. We saw new books coming out. We saw more podcasters. We saw more social media influencers. And also, you know, because people were doing lots of selfies. So Kim Kardashian, she's actually Pluto in Libra. So she like sort of like pioneered like the selfie. And yeah, so, you know, people started doing selfies, you know, and brands saw that, you know, especially if you had a certain amount of followers, they could pay you. So there was the rise of that. And a lot of it was to do with image. A lot of it was to do with who you're associating with. A lot of it was to do with what you spoke about as well. So it was actually a great time to be making a business through social media. On a personal level, some of you may have had like deeper conversation with brothers and sisters, your siblings. You could have gotten closer to your neighbors, or there could have been drama with siblings and neighbors. You know, because it's such because Pisces rules the third house to this. Short distance travel, so traveling to the people started to like get more in tuned with the spiritual aspects. People made a lot more, made a business out of astrology and tarot. A lot of that was pushed through. A lot of people actually, I talk about money a lot because this is what is coming through with Saturn, with Pluto and Capricorn. It's very much a money planet. All the earth signs are. So yeah, people, not only was it an emotional time, but it was a time that people made money through spirituality. So, you know, social media is alive and kicking. You know, tarot cards, yoga, meditation. People started to be gurus, teachers. People started to like teach online as well, teaching, having classes, which inspired a next generation as well. So yeah, people made money on social media. People made money blogging. It's not to say that it happened to everyone, but there was a certain amount, there was certain people that made more than others. Again, it's their time. Okay, we mustn't begrudge people when it's their time, because it's their time. The planets never lie. So yeah, so people made, you know, and also not just that, people had the blogs actually started in the 2000s, but it just grew more. But blogging was more online as an Instagram. So yeah, people had their blogs, and yeah, the influencers grew. But it was, some people were actually connecting more to their heart and spirit, but some people were just thinking, I just need to make money, this is what I'm going to do. So it was a mixed bag. Remember, Pisces is quite a deceptive sign, so we'll just never know. But again, it's your business. Everyone had to start a business. So yeah, there was, with all the houses, there's some good and there's some bad. So yeah, that was the third house. But especially when people actually spoke about things that touched people, it was very, even more better. The fourth house to this is Aries. And again, big drive. There was a huge, I felt it was a big time that a lot of people actually started a family. Some people started a family, some people moved home, some people actually started building, probably accumulating wealth. There was also one of these things that, you know, because the fourth house is a Cancer, has to do with roots and home. So some people may have moved back home. I wouldn't be surprised, because when we had the recession, a lot of people had to move back home. So, you know, you just swallow your pride, move back home. A lot of that going on. Some people, you know, committed in a relationship, got married, had a family, moved closer to the parents. There could have also been this, you know, renovating home. What's the other word I was thinking of? Like, yeah, renovating, decorating, investing in a home. So building, you know, remodeling. In this country, there was this huge push, what was going on during this Pluto and Capricorn, that people were buying homes or buying flats and just holding on to it. So other people couldn't afford. So people that wanted to rent, or they couldn't. Social housing is very big here. It's still going on. on one hand, you know, people were moving back, you know, or moving in with people because they just couldn't afford. It wasn't, it's like it was, how it was set up was that you shouldn't be buying, you should just struggle. Yeah. And on the other hand, it's like, you know, you want to rent a flat, but you can't because someone else has rented it and they're just holding on to it. On the other hand, it was just too goddamn expensive. You know, there was no like leadway. Remember, a new rise of a government and a new rise of generations helped this happen. So housing was very stagnated, and with it being in Aries, it was like mine. No, you're not going to do this. No, you're not going to do that. Yeah, you can do this, but you can't do that. So I felt that if you manage to keep your home or keep your flat during this Pluto, you were very lucky, because some people haven't been lucky. There's so much issues to do with people's houses and homes, and that, you know, they're asking like councils to help and they're not getting that much help, and it's just gone worse and worse. But now that it's ended, coming out of Capricorn, you know, things are starting to get better. So yeah, there was a lot of that, a lot of housing issues, a lot of but people that were lucky managed to, you know, rent out. You know, there was a rise of landlords, the rise of landlords as well, the rise of people renting out, charging more. Remember, this is Pluto here, so charging more than you should. Some people were very lucky that they weren't getting charged as much. They managed to, you know, buy their flat or buy their house and have their mortgage, but interest rates went up. Okay, remember, a lot of this is to do with the self. Unfortunately, when I'm speaking about the houses, Pluto and Capricorn, there's only like probably like 10-20% that's great. The rest has not been so great. So yes, but yeah, but on one good thing, I would say that if you manage to buy, or you manage to maintain, or, you know, your house has been fine, that's a great thing. And if you've managed to like save money to buy, there could have been on a personal level some dictatorship in the home, like lots of control issues, lots of this is how I want it to be decorated. But again, on a great level, if some people married and had kids and, you know, made their home their home. So yeah, but also fourth house is about secrets, it's about the past. So a lot of that came up. A lot of for it could be images from the past, but a lot of past things came up. So people had to find a way to deal with it, and they probably did it very quickly. But, you know, it will continue to keep coming up unless you deal with it properly. So yes, well, and another thing, there was also a rise of people studying their backgrounds and their genealogy, where their ancestors came from. This is still ongoing. So this is actually a great thing. Like, I really want to find out what I'm about. So yeah, that's grown bigger now. That's really grown bigger. Yeah, so that was the fourth house. Before I talk about the fifth house, there's something else I needed to add as well for the fourth house to the Pluto in Capricorn. In terms of the UK, their fourth house is Capricorn. And during mid 2020s, because, you know, Capricorn is about roots and heritage. And during the mid 2016, we had Brexit. And, you know, the older generation voted for Brexit, whereas the younger generation didn't. And obviously that vote went through. So another thing, because Aries rules the fourth house, people were more vocal in how they wanted their country to be. It started to be very very patriarchy. And Capricorn is a very traditional country. Like America, America's very embedded in roots. But Capricorn is, you know, the UK and America, they're like husband and wife. They've split up, but they always tend to get back together. But Capricorn is very much into the past, sort of stuck in the past. But it's very much a country that is, especially this country and the sign, is very close to like roots, home. It's not about moving forward, it's about sticking to what we know. And with the whole Brexit thing, and with the Aries being in the fourth house, it was more vocal. I did touch upon when I said that, you know, the housing situation, especially in the UK, is really bad. Aries also rules entrepreneurs. So again, I said there was like a rise in, there was a huge rise in landlords, people, there was new landlords, there was, people started renting their stuff out. So there was like a lot of people made business renting out homes, new businesses renting out homes. And yeah, I was just thinking about this, 'cause I was thinking, oh yeah, it was Brexit, and it was also, yeah, you just really can't forget Brexit. And people's, how they felt so strongly about taking the country back and keeping the country, yeah, more or less keeping the country British and white. And they were so vocal in that, and they're so passionate about that. And there's nothing wrong with passion, but you have to be passionate for the right thing. So yeah, we saw like a huge divide, especially when it came to like home and roots here. So yeah, we're going to the fifth house. So the fifth house to this is Taurus. And I forgot to say as well, I'm going to do like the pros and the cons. So I'm probably mixing it all up. But yeah, the pros and the cons of being in the fifth house was... Let's talk about the pros. Was that creativity, because fifth house very much rules creativity, it's children, it's also self-employment, it's fitness. So we saw slowly, remember the fifth house is Taurus, that people started to get very creative. It was more like a refinement of creativity. And we saw it on TV, we saw it in acting, in film. Things were very beautiful. Like we saw like Downton Abbey, it was, because it's Taurus, it rules like the past. So we did see like that, bringing back past things, which people tended to feel very nostalgic by. Even on like a general level, yeah, there was a huge rise in, I forgot to say it for the third anyway, but there was a huge rise in TV had having its golden moment. So there was loads of TV shows, loads of Marvels as well. Yeah, Black Panther was like the first $1 billion box office for Marvels. Well done. So yeah, there was a lot of that. TV had its golden. There was a brilliant TV shows on, guys. We can't forget. There was so much brilliant TV. Some of it was to do with, I'm picking up Mad Men, because I love Mad Men. I watched it twice. Mad Men. That was very much harking back to the past, especially with the fashion and the clothes. We had Scandal with Kerry Washington. What else did we have? We had so much. TV really and truly had its really golden moment. I really loved the TV of the last decade. There's only like certain things that I tended to watch, and I feel that some of you may have done that too. But yeah, it had its really golden moment, especially when it came to like fashion and the scenery and the storytelling. And yeah, I feel there was a lot of that going on. And again, people had children, a lot of people had children, children really, because it's Pluto here, really transformed your life, transformed our lives. And what's the other thing I'm picking up? Yeah, I'm picking up that people had children, people started to, more or less, I'm going to talk about the sixth house, but taking care of the physical body. It did feel, when it took care of the body, like it was more like a go hard or go home type of thing. But yeah, people started to like dress a bit different. I felt like the fashion was more or less like harking back to like the past type of thing. I felt that in terms of what we were wearing, it was like what type of fashion, what type of designer it was. Everyone started to sort of like show off what type of like designer they had, what was in. There was a sense of huge confidence, but the confidence was more, I would say, about what you were wearing. Who is it? It wasn't like some people did. I myself, I wore what I wanted. Some people ask, what are you wearing? I'm like, I don't know, I got this 20 years ago, 10 years ago. But, you know, I felt that people did recycle, which was good. People recycled what they were wearing, and but made themselves, but beautify themselves as well. You know, there was a sense of confidence. So the cons, I would say, is that although some of the TV shows were about the past, especially about the image and everything, there was a lot of it, especially in this country. There was a lot of harking back to the past. There was no diversity. A lot of Black and South and East Asians had to go to America in order to get parts because the door was shut, the glass ceiling was shut. And even if they did try to set up their own company, do things for, you know, just like to just, you know, just do things to help each other, it was shut down. It was very much, I'll say in terms of like the acting, the creativity here was very a glass ceiling door. There was no room for anyone else except British, okay? And the artists that were big, they went to private school. They went to, you know, they went to public or private school. They had rich connections, they had rich backgrounds. A lot of them now we are seeing is that they are playing working class people. So again, the glass door ceiling is very shut. So a lot of people like Black and Asian, they've gone to America, they've made it. That's when the British are opening their eyes. Oh my God, they're British, they made it. Remember, we are dealing with hierarchy. We're dealing with connections here. So if you didn't make it here, it's like, oh, well, you go somewhere else, you make it. Oh, now I want to know you. Very Capricorn. So that's when people want to work with you. So yes, so there was no diversity in this country. It's only because America has opened the flooded gates of diversity casting that England, through gritted teeth, has decided to do that now, and we still got a long way to go here. We will see that when Pluto goes into the UK's fifth house, it has no choice but to open it up. So yeah, we saw a lot of that. A lot of people from posh backgrounds who were cast in programs, and it's not to say you couldn't be creative. You could be creative, but it just you weren't getting. People weren't. There was a lot of people. I'll say like Black and Asian. They were not getting the and even working class people. They were just not getting they weren't getting the roles. It was very small compared to 100. So we saw a lot of Downton and we saw a lot of old school things that were played on British TV. We did see again the rise of Netflix, thank the Lord, because we now have a choice. We don't have to just keep watching BBC One, BBC Two, ITV. Everyone else is watching Netflix. People are watching films everywhere. You know, thanks to America, everyone has a choice. So what's happening in the UK in terms of creativity, they have to play catch up because streaming is more diverse. So yeah, there's a lot of catching up that's being done here. So yeah, there was a lot. What other cons would I say that happened here? Yes. Again, gritted teeth of diversity. No one really wanted to be diverse. But in order, again, to make money, make business, you had to diversify your cast and possibly your crew. People on a personal level, people probably push their kids a lot, like make them be the best. You have to be very mindful of that. But yeah, they may have been like this, you know, my kid's going to be this, my kid's going to be that. Nothing wrong in it, but it depends how far you push. Again, kids transformed us. A lot of us transformed ourselves. So yeah, it really didn't help, especially with the fifth house, that, you know, because I grew up in an era of, you know, respecting your elders, and I always believe that age is nothing but a number. You know, you could be, I don't know, 60 and act 16. You know, it depends on your mindset, but it really didn't help that the mindset of the fifth house in terms of creativity was very much stuck. It really didn't help that it was not forward thinking enough. And obviously the fifth house, this is Taurus. Taurus is not a sign that is, it's very comfortable sign, it's very grounded, very earthy. It's very stick to what we know. So there was a lot of that, and it's a shame that there was no room for change. It was a shame that there was no room for forward thinking, productivity. It was all about sticking to what we know. It felt very stuck creativity, even like in terms of like music. Again, the music was very much about what the previous generation did. It wasn't something new. It wasn't something that was it just felt like what previous generations did. It felt like, because again, when I looked at the chart for Pluto in Capricorn, a lot of it was very earthy, the chart. I think a lot of planets were actually in Virgo. So it was very like nothing new, just stick to what we know, just have the same people, the same artists, no other artists, no other creed of artists, just just stick with this. So that's one of the reasons why we saw, and I'm sure whoever you are in the world, some of the artists you may have liked, but if you look deeply and honestly, there was nothing brand new in terms of something original. The previous decade, it was more originality, but this decade, there was none. And that's just my personal opinion. I've spoken to some people, they felt the same. Yeah, there was just none. The sixth house to this was Gemini house. And the sixth house is to do with health, work, pets, our daily routines and habits, and work. So we saw the pros where we saw like a huge rise of people working for themselves, building up a business. Work life was very busy. There was a lot going on, especially in social media. The huge tech companies rose up as well. And yeah, there was a lot of that. It felt very busy, very productive, very, I wouldn't say not, yeah, there was, yeah, I would say there wasn't too much emphasis on care. It was more like, how can we build this? How can we communicate? What could we start? What can we learn? And of course, I feel that people got more pets as well. They probably got 2 pets. Remember, this is Gemini. And again, there was conversations about mental health, because Gemini is a mental health sign. So there was a lot of talk about mental health, how it affects you, like work-wise, especially during the pandemic. People's mental health came into more focus. People were, some people, remember Gemini's duality, so it's a case of looking at it differently now, how you're working. Some people decided to work from home, some people went back into the office, I felt that some people were more productive when they were around others. You bounce off ideas, a lot of bounce off ideas. A lot of people were doing 2 jobs as well in order to survive. Because remember, Capricorn is about surviving. So there was that big emphasis there. And it was actually great if you were working, but you was doing like your other little side hustle, something you've always wanted to do again. And yeah, and in terms of like fitness wise, people decide to switch up their fitness. It wasn't just a standing type of fitness. It was like high intensity was big, high and it's not new. I think it was carrying on from last decade, but it was more prevalent this decade, like doing lots more high intensity work, doing lots more they were even like on YouTube. People started uploading more workouts on YouTube. There was the rise of fitness trainers. People were there was nutritionists, there were coaches, like there was mindfulness as well. There's a lot of things that we could learn, how we could better ourselves. Were we consistent? That might be another story. I mean, I try to be, but obviously, because life is very busy. So yeah, there was a big thing of like mindfulness and reading up about how you can take care of your mind. There was more apps that were downloaded as well. A lot more apps that were downloaded about mindfulness. But yeah, there was, even if you go on YouTube now, guys, there's so much workouts. There's so much emphasis on clean eating. So many diets to learn from. K2, the Mediterranean, and all these diets are like, clean eating for me is just eating normal. But obviously things were also pegged a certain way, like clean eating, eat normal. Mindfulness, meditation. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of emphasis on making these things like corporate. So yeah, so it was good. These are the pros that, you know, you could find different ways to help your physical, mental. Again, even at work, there was lots of brainstorming about how you can make something more productive, how things can work for you in a business sense. The cons were that you know, we could have pushed ourselves too hard, too fast. There was also this rise of, in terms of contracts, you know, like, because remember, Gemini is the third house, it rules contracts. So there was this also big rise of zero contract hours. There was less care taken towards people that were on lower incomes. So look, zero contracts, like, you know, if you don't get certain benefits, like, you know, teacher agencies, for instance, you work for, like, any agency, should I say. Generally you work for an agency, but you're not getting, you know, your holiday pays in the pay. And, you know, you had so many stories, like holiday pays in the pay, like the working conditions weren't great. There was also this, like, you're hearing it from like other companies, like there's strike actions that are happening now, especially in the UK. A lot of unions are formed because they want better conditions for the workers, because there's none. There was like, you know, hiring cheap labor, hiring people, paying them less, but, you know, making sure they're not getting certain benefits. Okay, that's the sixth house. That's one of the cons for this. It's all about, you know, it's all about taking care of people's health or mental health. It's like they have to work, and then you get what you're given. So there's no care. Luckily, when Pluto goes into Capricorn, Aquarius, the sixth house is Cancer. So there'll be more care taken. Also, the sixth house rules, it's the sixth from the 12th house is like hospitals. So in the UK, we're seeing like the NHS is crashing. There's a lot of drama there. Okay, so it's crazy. It's really crazy. On one hand, it's great, but on the other hand, it's like you're starting to see the underneath it all, what is not so great about it, what people are not being taken care of, you know. So yeah, but obviously you got to take some of the good, but, you know, the bad is really bad. We come to the 10th house, which is Libra for Pluto in Capricorn. The 10th house was something else. If you listen to the beginning of what I spoke about the whole theme of Pluto in Capricorn, and also you can listen to the 7th house, the 10th house will make sense, if you understand what I mean. 10th house to do status. It's your career. It's your highest standing. It's a Capricorn house. You also do father figures, promotions. Whenever I say promotions, I always say demotions, because that can happen too. So with Pluto, with Libra in the 10th house, it was, again, knowing who you know. People rose up into getting, you know, one of the good things about this was that, you know, you could get a job was because of who you knew, the charm and grace. People rose up to be getting promoted pretty quickly. and, you know, working in beautiful surroundings. So you work in an office and, you know, you have like the Starbucks and, you know, you have, you know, 3-course meals when you're working type of thing. And again, the rise of the elite, the rise of high-powered buildings, the rise of corporate work, corporate study. Everything felt very corporate, but it appeared very charming. It appeared very, it was like this glossiness to it. Like, oh my God, it's amazing. I feel that I mean, I fell for it a bit as well, but I think we all fell for it in a way. Like, you know, you're working somewhere new, and even if you have like your first day, your first week, you think it's great. And, you know, you get, and this is a time that, you know, you're getting on with people. You know, people were very much, it actually felt like quite 80s, very much. Lots of business meetings, lots of business deals, lots of negotiating, lots of us going out. Yeah, like going out, making friends with this friend and that friend, and lots of swapping cards, swapping numbers, WhatsApps, social media. Because remember, social media was more business than the actual cards. So yeah, social media was actually your business card. How many followers you had, you know, status grew. And again, it was for certain people. And I'm not like disrespecting or anything, but it's just facts, you know. Certain people, certain, you know, certain societies grew because of this. And Libra just helps it along, you know. You know, if you were even good looking, even better for you. And let's not forget, Libra is a sign that is very aesthetic. So, of course, the 10th house is about status, but who also you are going to be with, who you're going to like marry in a way. So you tended to marry someone that was just like you, similar background, similar, you know, similar ways, could, yeah, similar, just similar to yourself or just like yourself. This wasn't a time of stepping outside the grain, stepping outside the box. Oh no, you had to, the person had to have like a social certain like standing that, you know, you had. And there's nothing wrong in it, to be honest with you. I feel that if, you know, if you like who you like, regardless of what they look like, again, if they were good looking, even better, you can show them off to like your business partner. You know, they had, you know, they may have come from a good family as well. They may have come from money. They may have also come from old money. So like your status grew too. Or, you know, they may have come from nothing, but they build wealth, and, you know, you get together. You know, this is about connections, meetings. So, you know, that was like one of the pros. The cons were, again, you know, you're working somewhere and, you know, it appears so great, and after then you find out, you know, you get your breakfast, you get your breakfast, lunch and dinner there, or even your breakfast and lunch, but then you find out you have to work 8 in the morning till 8 at night. That's not normal. And, you know, you have no life. You have no life. The other cons is, yeah, other cons I would say is working for little, not knowing your worth, or knowing your worth, but you can't get your worth because it's deemed, it's like you're damned if you ask for more and you're damned if you don't. So if you can go, guys, go back to when I talked about the 6th house, about what this meant. Because when it came to like work and conditions and pensions and benefits, it was very much an air time. There was no connections to emotions with this. And it went like that with, and also another thing I found with this is that there were some people that were really great at their job. They may have not come from anything, but they were great at their job. They should have been promoted, not demoted, but they should have been promoted. They were better at even sometimes the manager. I heard so many stories, guys. They were actually better than I wouldn't necessarily CEO, but I'll say better than their boss. But for some reason, the boss got the job, and God knows what they've done to get it. So I also saw and felt, even with my own eyes, that there was some bullying going on. Like it's like a battle. It felt like a battle of, I'm gonna stay at the top. And we did see a lot, especially, I'm just gonna say, there was a lot of women that were in positions of power, and they sort of like belittled people, especially if they were younger. You see a lot of that were younger, or if they didn't look like you, they didn't have the same sort of upbringing as you. They tended to belittle their employees. But when they talked to the CEO, they were extremely charming. It's very, I wouldn't even say vindictive in the 10th house. I'd say that it was quite dangerous with Libra being in the 10th house to this, because all was not what it seemed. Things were not what they seemed, basically. And it was a very, at times it could be very scary. At times it could be very scary. So again, even going back to the 6th house, people, were, not that you were supposed to get it, but it would have made sense that certain people should have been in higher positions than they were, but because they didn't have that privilege, or because they didn't know the right people, or they didn't look or dress a certain way, they didn't get it. On the outside, it was like, oh yeah, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get that, and afterwards, then it's like, where is it? I thought we discussed this. So there was a lot of we also saw people that were promoted. They more or less didn't know what they were doing, but they were telling people that knew what they were doing what to do. Okay. Another thing that came to my head, one of the cons of this is, again, working for less. You're working, and you're getting pittance. You're getting peanuts, pennies. But that was just the way that's just the way that it was. That's just the way it was. But yeah, but we're starting to now see, especially because unions are striking, we're starting to see like the benefits that they're not getting. Because especially going from the 8th house, the 9th house to this, no, 9th, the 8th house to this, which is in Leo, like when your ego is too big, you don't want to give pensions and that, how it can all crash and burn. So we're now starting to see the floodgates opening. So yeah, that was the 10th house to this. It was very mind-blowing. The 11th house of Pluto and Capricorn, Scorpio ruled it. So let's talk about the pros with this. So what happened with this? In terms of friendships, groups, associations, people were, there was a powerful connection that people made, especially on social media. People followed people who tended to be very influential. This was the rise of the influencer, and that's how people made their money anyway. And, of course, whoever you followed, they enhanced you in some way. You benefited them from some way. If you ended up being friends as well, especially if they were, associates, everyone was helping each other. Okay, that's just the way the world is, and that's how, money makes the world go round. And, I felt that some people did have really good intentions. Some people had really good intentions. Like, if you like want to help yourself more spiritually, should I say, it was really great to be, just go on Instagram, YouTube, or whatever, Facebook, just tap their name in, and, they'll be giving you, some of it will definitely be free, like free advice, or there could be some quotes, affirmations, all of that. Even political parties, people associated with political parties, people from higher standings. It could have been about protests, some scientific, humanitarianism. So yeah, I felt that the motivations for some of us were great. On one hand, it's really good to align yourself with people who have this sort of like the same similar beliefs as you. We did see, again, I say social media a lot because it dominated this past decade. And yeah, people made businesses on social media. That was their new business. People found gains through this, and the 11th house is about gains through others too. So on the other side, the cons of this is that there could have been an element of selfishness as well, like ruthlessness, to associate with people. There could have also been an obsession to be around certain people. Even personally, you know, there might have been a lot of controlling issues to do with friends and groups, and even money. Controlling, i.e., and that you're my friend, you shouldn't speak to that person, or you know, there might have been like lots of gossiping, talking. This is what happened, and you know, don't be around this person because they haven't got this type of prestige, or don't be around that person, that type of thing. Even like in business dealings, I felt it probably was the same. You know, mixing friends and business, sometimes it just doesn't really work. But you know, people did get an increased sense of like power. So yeah, and some of you probably rose up in your friendships. Some of you probably became like the leader in your group because you were about something. Yeah, and you know, remember Pluto is about a cult, so there was a rise as well of people of the occult studies that were happening. So even like on like YouTube, I'm on YouTube. People are following people on YouTube because they're helping them, they're giving advice. And on the other hand, the downside is that there's a lot of trolling going on. Like, I don't believe in what you're talking about, you're lying, what kind of skills or qualifications do you have? This is obviously a sense of insecurity that is coming up, but trolling rose big time. But I think if you use this productively, you could have like gained some definite higher knowledge. You know, you could have also built up something for yourself, something you were never interested in. Like, it could be something to do with technology, something to do with science. You could have really harnessed that power really well. So it definitely was like a mixed bag, you know, some gains, but also, again, there's always pros and cons with things. And last, we come to the last house of this is the 12th house, and it is Aquarius. So I felt deep down, even like, because whenever I talk about the 12th house, I feel like I'm daydreaming for some reason. But the 12th house, I felt this, you know, the you can say the pros or cons, but I think on a general, I feel that a lot of us wanted to really transform ourselves, you know, even though we were in this rat race. And with Aquarius ruling the 12th house, it's not necessarily easy, because remember, Aquarius was traditionally ruled by Saturn. And it has Saturn components, should I say. It can, you know. So, yes, I do feel with this that we did want to like better ourselves, better things for mankind. There was a lot of, even now we're seeing, because Pluto's like coming out, even though it's going to be dipping in and out, it's still coming out. We did see a rise of like hidden sort of groups, and it could have been occult groups, meditation groups. There was that type of feeling going on, and Aquarian is about it's mankind, but it's also that brotherhood, womanhood. So we did see an element of people giving back, talking. We did see the rise of protests happening as well, even though it was very slow. It sort of like ebbed and flowed. We did want to see like the world better. Like, there was a sense of wanting or talking about equality, talking about this should be, you know, everyone should be equal. Everyone should be able to climb that ladder. And again, there was a lot of talk of that. It wasn't necessarily yeah, I'll say it wasn't necessarily, it worked, but there was a lot of talk of it. And the 12th house is about meditation. It's to do with releasing hidden things, hidden themes. So I do feel like on the positive side that, you know, especially Pluto being here, it was a time that, you know, even deep down we wanted to really transform ourselves to be better. If we had like strict selfish tendencies as well, it was like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna give this up. And I felt that on a mental level, it was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I felt that some of us actually worked really hard at trying to do that, you know, but obviously the mind probably got into the way. But I do feel that, because the 12th house is very much and if you put Pluto in the 12th, it's like, you know, is psychic ability. You could be clairvoyant. It's your intuition is very high. And I felt that a lot of us did go into our feelings a lot. There was stuff that we really wanted to connect with, especially on a spiritual level. Hence the reason why we saw the rise of tarot and astrology and all those types of things. And meditation as well, because Capricorn is a sign that tends to get depressed. Okay, so in order for us to heal our mental health, I felt that people did like, okay, it was a powerful effect of meditation, all of that, yoga. There were so many apps, especially with Aquarius being there. A lot of it was on social, a lot of it was on in the media, a lot of it was on social media. There was lots of apps created to like, well, I think one was called, I can't remember what it was called, but it was very big, and obviously it made money as well. Remember, we're dealing with money here. So we did want to delve deep, and we did want to also, you know, connect to like our spiritual selves, because deep down, some of us know, even if we may not want to admit it, deep down, some of us know that what we're doing wasn't great, wasn't right. It wasn't helping anyone. It was just really, truly helping ourselves. So I feel that we did tap into our subconscious. I felt that, you know, people got, there was a side that, a society that got very highly in tune with their emotions, although we may have not said it too much or spoke about it too much. There was that tapping in. So I felt that was a big pro to this. On the downside, you know, the secret house, the 12th house about secret enemies. So that obviously came forth. I felt that there was definitely some paranoia that came up. Yeah, definitely some paranoia. There was obviously some destructive behavior. There was some hidden things that were not benefiting society as well. Obviously, I think it's probably to do with like Neptune being in Pisces, the rise of like drugs and everything that came up. So even though, you know, you were, if you were like powerful deep down or behind the scenes, there was some dodginess going on, if we're being very honest with ourselves. So yeah, but on the other side as well, on the middle side, I'll say is that not being afraid to be alone, not being afraid in seclusion, not being afraid, because sometimes I felt that you could have done a lot, some of us done a lot more when we weren't around too much, being highly influenced by people. And I feel like even like mentally, our senses were more finely tuned too. So yeah, and this wasn't a time, with Aquarius being the 12th house, we may have also avoided the problems that were coming up to do with society, or even to do with ourselves, to do with relationships, to do with like everything. So I feel that we're still working with that. And it's not easy, because Capricorn doesn't like to let go. And with 12th house being in Capricorn's, Aquarius being in Capricorn's 12th house, it's not easy to let go. It's very much about keep going, not stopping, keep plugging ahead, keep analyzing, keep, you know, but we need to connect to our emotional or even mental health. So again, like I said, that's still ongoing. yeah, it's definitely still ongoing. When I feel that when Pluto goes into Capricorn, Aquarius is 12th house, which is Capricorn, that might be a thing that will be talked about even more. Like, you know, you're just admitting that, okay, not everything's not all right. I need to actually, because we're living in a world where things are always all right, and it's not healthy. And I feel that we're seeing that now. The last note I wanted to make is that we're in a conjunction that started off in 1988, which was the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Capricorn. And 1993, I believe, was the Saturn-Uranus conjunction, and they're both in Capricorn. So I say that it's because Pluto in Capricorn is just highlighted a lot of us are born, like, obviously, you know, especially like the 70s, 80s, 90s kids, or that generation who are born in that time. We've come up where it's very Capricornian. And it started off in the late 80s and in the 90s, and it's still ongoing. When it does end, which will be especially the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Capricorn in 2026, it's going to start a beginning. And I believe it's going to be it's going to be in Aries. I think they're both going to be in Aries. I got to check, but it's going to be a brand new beginning. We're not going to be of that corporate ruthlessness, the shadow side of Capricorn, because Capricorn has some good parts, you know. Capricorn has, you know, every sign has its place, but sometimes we just tend to see like the worst, the worst aspects of it. And unfortunately, how we're all growing up in our lifetime, we're seeing the worst aspects of it. But when those two conjunctions come to an end this decade, or even like next decade, we're going into a brand new time of a restart. And like I said, Pluto in Capricorn has just highlighted it even more of what happened during like the 80s and 90s. It's just exposed it even bigger. So don't worry, you know, even me myself have to remind myself, okay, a lot of these things are coming to an end. There's a lot of just holding on to it at the moment, but it's coming to an end. We're in era now, unfortunately. So there's really no place for like that earth outdated system. So yeah, I wanted to definitely touch upon that, just to remind myself and also us that, you know, we're in a conjunction that started off in that time. So guys, that was like my 2 cents worth of Pluto in Capricorn and leaving Capricorn. It's been a long journey, a long ride. I think that we all learned a lot from it. We should have, you know, good or bad, regardless. It's life. But one thing Pluto and Capricorn has showed us that, you know, we've all in our own way benefited. Some obviously more than others, but we've all benefited from it. And, you know, once it does leave completely in 2024, there's lessons that we've all learnt. So yeah, so that's it, guys. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Let me know what you think about this video, and let me know how you felt Pluto and Capricorn has been for you yourself as well. So thank you guys very much for listening to this very long video. I feel like it had to be long. Yeah, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.